Sports Gaming. So I'm just using this new setup, getting used to it, but we'll see how it goes. Let's turn this volume up, let's crank this volume up a bit. And I hope that all of you are well. So let's talk about Eubank Jr. and Smith, Liam Smith. The first fight, a lot of people expected Chris Eubank Jr. to overwhelm and go out and stop Liam Smith. That was the general consensus, that Eubank would probably be too big, too strong. Liam Smith wouldn't have the power to knock Eubank Jr. out, and Eubank Jr. was going to win. We believed that Eubank Jr.'s toughness of chin, durability, would see him through. Everything was going okay for Eubank Jr. until that fourth round, where he was backed up to the ropes, or backed himself into ropes, however you want to look at it. And then before we knew it, Eubank was on the canvas and then moved, looking like Bambi on ice. So he didn't look great. And the first thing people were thinking was punch resistance had gone due to the weight drain because of the Conor Benn fight that Eubank Jr. was going to be in until that fight got pulled. And we didn't know how detrimental that weight drain was on Eubank Jr. And you saw the pictures of him, he looked awful. People overlook that. When I look at Eubank Jr. and I look at Smith, it sort of reminds me of Steve Collins and Chris Eubank Sr. Chris Eubank Sr. could never work out Steve Collins. Steve Collins got inside of Eubank's head. He got inside his head, and when he got inside his head, psychologically, so he got in, and Eubank was worried after the Michael Watson fight, he was never the same fighter again, and that played on, Eubank just wanted to go safety first in fights after he'd injured Michael Watson in that fatal fight. But I think it was Tottenham Football Ground at the time I'm watching it live. Eubank got off the canvas after Watson had dropped him. Watson was on fire that night, and he just was beating Eubank up and down, beating Eubank up. And then Eubank got dropped by Watson. He got up and then hit Watson with a mighty uppercut. And it was that uppercut that basically was it. The referee pulling Watson out for the next round. Watson should never have been pulled out for the next round. That just caused more damage to Watson. He was defenseless. But anyway, the comparison with the Steve Collins thing is that after that fight, Eubank was never the same again mentally, emotionally. He was safety first. So when Collins came along, Collins said, "Oh, I'm under hypnosis into this fight." He came in with headphones on, and all his job was to do was just to put pressure on Eubank and keep putting pressure on Eubank. Eubank used to always fight at his own pace. So he learnt from the Watson fight and just continued from the Watson fight. So he just kept throwing punches at Eubank, and no matter what Eubank did, he didn't allow Eubank to breathe. Outpointed Eubank. The rematch came, and Collins did exactly the same thing again, stuck to the same game plan, and Collins still won the fight. I believe at that time as well, Eubank was struggling at the weight as well. Now, but Collins got inside Eubank's head. I'm just thinking if now Eubank Jr. is going to go for the same things with Liam Smith. Just wondering, when you look at father and son and what's happened. Questions I've got for this fight is, first of all, David Haye may have let the cat out of the bag for this fight. Because remember, David Haye was working with Chris Eubank Jr. And he said that Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't doing any sparring. Chris Eubank Jr. isn't doing any sparring. That's not a good sign if he wasn't doing sparring. And if Haye's telling you he's not been doing sparring, that's not good. But I don't know if he said that to throw Liam Smith off. What I do know is that fighters fighting patterns. I've been saying it for years. Fighters fighting patterns. So in the first fight, Roy Jones wanted Eubank to do certain things, and Eubank didn't follow the game plan. So what is to suggest? So throughout his career, Eubank has been stubborn in terms of following game plans and fighting to strategy. Roy Jones complained that Eubank didn't follow the game plan. Now in the rematch, we now have Bomac in his corner. It's suddenly Bomac the guy that's going to get Eubank in his biggest fight to date and career-defining or career-ending fight against Liam Smith. Is he going to follow a game plan? Is he going to follow to instructions? Was David Haye right about Eubank not sparring? And more to the point, that weight drain, how much damage has it done to Eubank's body? And him getting knocked out the way he did, ask myself this question as well. Is that the end of the Eubank? Because it was durability. Durability is what kept Eubank in fights. It was durability that kept him in fights with like George Groves. He banked on that durability. And then, has he been living the life? Outside the ring, what's he been doing? Spending lots of nights playing poker. That stuff affects your body as well. You know, so is he living the lifestyle, Eubank? The one thing about Chris Eubank Jr., he talks so well. He's so engaging. I've always liked him as a character because he's so engaging with his talking, the way he is able to articulate his words and his mannerisms. They are, you either like him or you hate him. You want to see him get flatlined or you want him to win fights. So for me, as my light. So for me, I'm interested to see how Eubank goes about this fight. I am very interested to see how he goes about this fight, to see what he does in a big fight. I'm very interested to see how he does. Let's see, let's get some light here. Okay. Ooh, disco lights. Nice. I got disco lights here a lot. Flashing lights. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's not what I want. No, I don't want that. It's flashing. So I'm just going for, aha. There we go. We've got a stable light now. So, I don't know. Repeat or revenge. Fighters fighting patterns. I know for a fact that Liam Smith is technically a better boxer than Eubank Jr. And Smith is correct. Eubank makes far too many mistakes. If you look at the way Eubank got knocked out, it wasn't too dissimilar to the way Roy Jones got knocked out by Glenn Johnson up against the ropes. The way he got knocked out by Denis Lebedev back against the ropes. So I've always felt Eubank, when you corner him, when you put him against the ropes, just wait, let him throw his punches, get him against the ropes, and let the shots go. And I think that's what Liam Smith is going to do. I think Liam Smith is going to go by a similar game plan. I think he's still going to come out the same typical Liam Smith. He can talk all about, oh, I've been doing this in camp, we've been working that in camp, we've been doing this in camp. I don't believe Liam Smith is going to do anything different in this fight. I think Eubank Jr. is going to try and run back the clock. I think he's going to try and run out and try and stick it on Liam Smith, because that's the only way he wins this fight. Eubank Jr. does not outpoint Liam Smith. If he's going to beat Liam Smith, he's got to do it by knockout. He cannot win this fight by points. No way. I don't see him beating Liam Smith. Because at some point Eubank is going to revert to type. He's going to end up going with his back against the ropes, and Liam Smith will jump on top of him. He said it's a lapse of concentration, but Eubank fundamentally makes a lot of mistakes anyway. So he's going to have to keep that chin down, not have his chin up in the air so much. And he's going to have to scrap all that Roy Jones stuff, because that leaves him extremely vulnerable defensively. So if I'm Liam Smith and I'm going into this rematch, do exactly what you know, expect an early onslaught, but try and punch in between Chris's punches. So Chris, when you open yourself up to throwing 5 or 6 punches, you leave yourself more open to counters. This is particularly something in the heavyweight division I want to talk about very quickly. That's why the Klitschko's, you always saw them throw 1, 2, 3 punches maximum. So you're less likely to get countered. When you're throwing 6, 7, 8 punches, you're there to get countered, and you're there to get punches in between punches. So Eubank could get tagged in between throwing punches. I believe Eubank is going to come out and start fast and try and put it on Liam Smith. Only way he can do. Back Smith up, put pressure on Smith, try and burst through that watertight defense, throw more uppercuts, and just look to overwhelm Smith. How long can that last? I don't believe Eubank can do that for 12 rounds. I don't even think he can fight at pace for 12 rounds like that. So that's one way I believe Eubank is going to go about it. Like I said, fighters fighting patterns. I don't want to keep repeating myself. Eubank will come out and try and take the fight to Liam Smith. Eubank may be stronger in this fight, though. He may be a lot stronger and a lot healthier than for this second fight than he was for the first fight. So he may be physically stronger, and he may have a little bit more on his punches, and he may have a little bit more resistance. He may do. How much was that weight cut? He says he's never going to cut weight like that again. So we'll see whether that was all talk. If he is physically strong, like the way he's meant to be, I don't believe, you see, Khan had Bomac in his corner. You can't just bring a guy like Bomac in for one fight and think it's all going to get resolved. Particularly if a fighter is one that's stubborn in his ways anyway and will do what he's going to do. 4 or 5 fights, a camp. You need to have a camp, not 4 weeks in and bringing in Bomac. That to me, all that is icing on the cake. But when you get past the icing on the cake and you actually bite into the cake, the cake is not cooked properly. You know, the ingredients haven't really gotten together the way you should do. You know. And that's what I think with Eubank. I think as soon as he's put under pressure, not as soon as he's hit, but as soon as he's put under pressure, he may revert back to tight, or he may revert back to a confused state. Because how many trainers does this guy had? You know, so I don't know about Eubank. Eubank again. The only way I see Eubank winning this fight is by knockout, stopping Liam Smith. And the way he would stop Liam Smith is by Liam Smith thinking that Eubank is like the Eubank he fought the last time. If he underestimates Eubank's punching power and physical strength in this fight, because this time Eubank looked healthier for this to lead up to this fight. He looked a lot healthier. So if he's a fit and strong and made the weight well, then fine. But he's 31, 32 years old now, trying to go and fight like a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-olds. It's a tough ask. I still suspect during that Conor Benn time when Eubank was trying to make that weight, and his dad was saying he'll never be a world champion. There were things I'm sure Eubank Sr. saw in Eubank Jr. that made him feel that way, that he'll never be a world champion. His dad knows what it takes to be a world champion, and one of the things his dad did in his career was sacrifice. And I just wonder how much Eubank Jr. has or wants to sacrifice anymore. He made some points that he doesn't have to box anymore. In fact, he's saying he doesn't have to box anymore. Does make you wonder. Yeah. So, and then when they asked him the question, how's the fight gonna go? You're gonna have to tune in Saturday night. There was not a definitive, I'm going out there, I'm stopping Liam Smith. If it were me and I didn't do the weight right, and you know there were things behind the fight, before the fight, behind the scenes that weren't going right, I would say, look, you know what? I think camp didn't go well. I didn't do those things as well as I should have done. The Conor Benn fight, the proposed Conor Benn fight, where I lost all that weight to make that weight, the extra pounds really did kill me, and I didn't realise it until I got in the ring that night. If he hasn't been sparring, he wouldn't know. You know, so I don't know. I'm interested to see how this all goes and how this fight will end up. I really am. But for boxing fans, I think we'll have an interesting fight for as long as it lasts. It could be even quicker. Smith may slip inside, get Eubank to the ropes, and let his hands go. And Eubank's gonna have to find his way. If Eubank will lose his fight if his back is too close against the ropes. Eubank wins this fight if he can stay in the centre of the ring and push Liam Smith back. That's what he's got to do. But he's got to watch Smith on the counter. He has got to watch Smith on the counter. Smith will just explode. He will tuck up tight, go in defensive shell, walk you into a position where he thinks, right, got you. And then he'll let go. And when Smith lets go, when Smith gets you back against them ropes and lets his hands go, we're going to see where this fight is. Because ultimately, if Eubank hasn't learned his lesson and he allows Smith to walk him back to the ropes again and his back is against those ropes, you may see a similar outcome again. Because Eubank, does he learn lessons? Is he listening to Bomac? Has he listened to anybody? Or is he going to go out and do his own thing? And if Eubank discovers when he throws all those punches and Smith is still there, what next? Can he do 12 rounds well? Don't know. So when things get difficult for Eubank, is he going to revert to type and do his own thing? When things are not going right, is he going to do his own thing? And the last thing I'm going to say is, Eubank keeps saying that he could have continued. If you remember Deontay Wilder, when Deontay Wilder got stopped, and he was saying he'd like to continue in the fight, and the referee shouldn't have stopped the fight. He wanted to go out and shield. Well, you saw what happened in the third fight with him and Fury, right? You saw he took an absolute pounding, and he did get laid out, flat out, cold. In the end by Fury. So, be careful what you wish for, Eubank. You really, that's not what you really want. The referee's there to save your ass, not for you to get beaten. And there's so many instances where fighters have been stopped too late. I'd rather a fight get stopped too early than too late. And to be honest, what I can see happening is, I think they might even stop the fight again. There are two ways. They'll either stop the fight early, if Smith's on top, or if a Smith situation and Smith is on top again, it could be bad for Eubank. So I don't know, because he did not look in any fit condition to continue that fight where he was bouncing around like Bambi. He didn't know he werewolf all. He didn't know where he was. So I don't know where Eubank is getting the idea that he could have continued that fight. So I don't know. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the fight tonight. This has been BWTM Sports with Smith versus Eubank 2, Junior 2. Prediction, I'm out. Take care.